you here today. My name is James True, and I'm actually showing you my face, which is something I'm gonna get away from. Hello, everyone. It's great to see everyone. Really glad you could make it here today for Monday on James True Live. Really happy to be your captain today, and the fact that you've granted me your witness for however long you extend that courtesy to me is frankly an honor. And let's see what I do with it. Right? Want to tickle the taint? Yeah, that's the goal. As we covered last time, man has the shortest square footage of taint out of any animal you can count. We did the math. Published a paper on PubMed about this. The taint ratio of the Homo taintian, sapien, is remarkably smaller, and I traced the roots back to a tribe in New Guinea that had a much longer taint than any other human species. And my postulate was the longer the taint, the more it ain't. And it was a study on the ethnocentric effects of the soil on the breadth of taint. I know I said length of taint, but see, back then I was lost on the breadth of taint. I thought that the breadth of taint really had more to do with my underlying theory, which was, frankly presented wrong. Of course, the International Taint Council, which is, I'm a proud member of that group, although they don't like me saying so, sanctioned me, and I've learned my lesson. And this is what you're doing. You're like, should I watch this? No, that's what they feel like. No, and that's okay too, because it's the airship, and we're gonna fly it wherever it goes. And even if I don't have a beard, even if I'm doing audio, I was trying to get like this talking sort of like image thing going on, and frankly I don't know how I did it. If you notice in the top right corner here, it says the word LIV. That is in fact reacting to my voice. But I was trying to get Walter Russell to talk. It did not work. There's been a lot of... it's got a heart floating around. Look at that. When you guys... Apparently, when you click the heart button, I see... Oh, Adam's already accused me of being tainted. That is funny. That is funny, Adam Weber. I didn't even think of that. Tickle the taint. Oh, I bet there's all kinds of... Taintocles, of course, is the famous Greek philosopher who put forward the idea that the taint is the center of the soul, and I think he's right. It'd be a great time to remind you all that none of us know why we're here. None of us have been able to explain at all the purpose to life, the sole reason why we're de facto on this place, even if we are. And there's all kinds of speculation. There's all kinds of rumors. There's all kinds of cults. And I like cults. I think that you meet the finest people in cults. Colt 49ers, Colt Malt Liquor. Colt Malt Liquor is a really good place to meet someone. You guys know Mad Dog. He's there. And, Taintocles himself said, as Bacchus emerges through the psyche, there will be a day when Mad Dog 2020 will be the sense of sight. And that really is what it's saying, right? That you have the vision of Mad Dog, which is absolutely clear. And the taintacles, right? The spectacles of the taint of society, I've preached here for a while, actually gets us through. So I actually have a show. Don't go. You know what? Go. It's okay. I probably don't deserve you, but I do have a show today. You guys may not know this, but I've been working on the airship a lot in the back end. I haven't been, speaking of taint, I've been working in the back end a lot of the airship, which is sort of the technical software side of things, and what's happening and what we do. And there's failures, there's successes. I was going to stream from the porch today, and now my laptop's like, why are you pushing Why you, why do you want me to come on? Says the laptop. Laptop's like, I'm tired. I'm like, but laptop, you haven't been on in 2 weeks. It's like, I know, that's why I'm tired. You look, you got to ease me into this stuff. You wanted me to. Remember how I told you guys that it's not. You could be curmudgeon all you want. You have to be predictable. Laptops feel the same way, right? You know that. James is trying to scare off normies. Yeah, if a normie made it here, it's probably better we put them out of their misery. Like seriously, if you consider that the perils of a normie to end up here right now and be sort of like, yeah, I was clicking on a commercial for Barbazol, and for some reason, some of you may like Barbazol. It's a taint shaving cream designed for undercarriages, shaving, things like that. James, don't show that part of your face. Men aren't supposed to have that part. These are like my boobs. Is that how it works, right? Since I don't have a beard, these are basically my. I swear I have a show. You know what's hilarious is I actually do have a show. Underneath all this grift, right, is a show. I swear. I don't know if you're feeling good, but but I am. I wanted to laptop live center. That's right. I wanted to. Before I forget, special. What's that word? PSA, public service announcement. The more you know. Some of you guys are gritting your teeth through Pride Month. And I'm you. I've been there. I'm not this month. And I want to ask you one more time, only because there's only 7 more days. There's only 7 more days. On day 8, you are not going to be able to participate in this experiment that I'm telling you about right now. And if you don't want to wear a bracelet, I want you to go out and buy a tail. I'm waiting for that special person to go, whoa, what? Yeah, I challenge you all. Go buy a tail and wear it before the end of the month. But there, I have stipulations for you. Number 1, the tail has to be badass. One of the things that disgusts me about Halloween is the cheapness of our Halloween masks. It destroys the entire effect of the magic of Heyoka. And that one of the reasons why we have ran away so far from the magic of fashion, including beards, is because we have lost touch with the tactile sensation of magic imbued in a costume. And Pride is giving you an opportunity under the auspice of something else to do this. The tail needs to make you feel cool when you're alone. If someone catches you with the tail on and that embarrasses you, you are lifting the correct amount of weight. The amount of weight that I need you to place on the barbells for this exercise is exactly correct when these two things have occurred. 1, the tail is badass. It matches not your personality, but your uber personality. It matches there is an id that you keep alive, that you hide in the gutter when no one's looking. You put it in the closet, you put it in the basement, you put it in the attic, you put it in the trunk, wherever your safe spot is. And this is the ideal self of you, the person that's awesome. And you have to hide this because there are cannibals out there that will eat that alive. And you've developed a capacity to camouflage yourself inside the shadows of the taints of this world. When you were 9, you simply were too fucking potent for this shit to affect you. You were too powerful. And as you grew older, The caramelization of society around you started to enforce who the fuck you needed to be, and it told you stop playing, stop imagining, stop thinking of yourself in any kind of uberistic, fantastic way. Bring yourself back to the taint. And so we do. And we have ketchup, and we have fucking mustard, and we have mayonnaise. And these are the three juices of a tricorn fucking life. A tricorn life. And the roots of this structure would be necessary to lift us off the ground, which is why the binary, the breeder mentality that got us here is exactly what it is done, exactly what it should do, has done it so fucking well that its own children are blossoming now. And the orthodoxy that got us here is freaking out, and the blossoming flowers that were born in this brand new realm are bitching and complaining about the very structured people that got us here. The flower bitches from both directions. Each part of the flower insists that the other part is fucked up. And if you're going to stick your... I'm going to cuss less. I don't know how that's going to happen. And each part is going to insist, I am not you, you are not me, because it's the only way they can remain themselves. If the parts of the flower thought that the binary of the stalk was the way to go, they would never proceed. There has to be a built-in tangent. We discussed this with the concept of pruning. That if you do your job well, your child will have enough oomph, gusto, and bravery to tangentialize themselves from the very root of the Father. That it would be a tangent. It wouldn't be a direct opposition. It would be pushed in the direction of the Father, but at as far away from an angle that gives him his own sense of self, his own direction. And this is the Fibonacci that causes all the stems to grow, right? End of PSA. Oh no, it's not end. Get a tail. I think nighttime's your best bet. If you live in a house with others, if you're a patriarchal figure, on this channel, patriarch is good, by the way. If you're the one in charge, the idea of you wearing a tail is going to be very difficult. In fact, the amount of difficulty is precisely congruent to the amount of fascism that you wear in a psychic suit. And this is a good fascism. This is Mussolini is in the pasta, right? Oh, it's some lovely Mussolini fascism because it insists on yourself to protect because it knows how much of a bubble you need because there's fucking cannibals everywhere. There's cannibals everywhere, right? So, the nervousness of this is precisely showing you the transaction that's about to come out. Garbage in, garbage out. If you feel I wanted to say taint there. If you feel the taint of this, if you feel the electrical charge of this thing, all that power is yours. It's the same thing with 666. All right, you're in McDonald's. But I don't eat McDonald's. Yeah, no one eats at McDonald's. It's fucking amazing that they're here because every single person that I've ever met, ever, in the entirety of the entire world has never eaten at McDonald's. I don't know how it happens, but I actually have eaten there. It's actually not a problem. I actually have eaten there sometimes, okay? Anyway, I'm there, and I get a receipt, and it says 666. It's like, we'll call your number, 666. And the lady that's handing me the thing, she goes, your number 666. And she looks at me like she's sorry. She looks at me like I've wronged you. Too bad you guys can't enjoy this story because I know you've never been to McDonald's. So I'm sure all of you are like, oh, gee, what's McDonald's? I've never heard of McDonald's. Oh, God. He's talking about things that are so foreign to me because of how I love doing this. This is why I shouldn't be on camera. I really shouldn't. It's better this way. I hope you guys are having fun. Happy, wonderful day. It's great to be here. I have a show. I know you don't even believe me. I have a show. I don't even know what I was talking about. But yeah. Yeah, so when you get that 666, right? When you get that, that's when you look them in the eye and you're like, oh no, I'll take that number. I will. Look, I know it's bad. Guys, I know. What's even funnier is that we're all discussing it back and forth. Like, McDonald's is like bad. It's like, oh, gee, no shit, Reggie. Okay, I'm glad no one actually said that. But it's like, that's usually how it's like, well, I don't like saturated fats. It's like, yeah, no, you're just totally in the unsaturated fats. You know what? I want my life fucking saturated, Reggie. I don't know who Reggie is, but fuck it. Too bad, Reggie. Your number's up. You are the 666 today because I want my fats saturated, Reggie. I want them saturated. The tale of two tainty cities. Yeah, no. If you wear the tail, you are going to hook into a person that you thought died a long time ago. And this is why it's probably better in the garage at night if you're a patriarch. It's probably better. Some of you are like, no, I tell my wife everything. It's like, just stop. Just stop. Okay. The ones that are like, I tell my wife everything. You guys bury the box the deepest in the yard. It's okay. It's okay. Ugh. It's just so... The problem I have is that I can see through so many things now that it's... I don't spend enough courtesy like pretending that everyone has a different moral fiber than they claim they do. It's just... why am I complaining, James? Why? Right? Yeah, it's the taint days. So, can we get on with this PSA? If I convinced anyone to try this, like I said before, if you're already gay, the pride bracelet's not going to work. So I encourage you to wear a Hitler armband or Proud Boys would do it. Some kind of Proud Boys thing, or like a thin blue line sticker, or maybe even like some kind of country thing. I've been plagued by painters that are painting next door, and they think I should listen to country music while they do it. They think everyone should listen to... Oh. Still hear that. I just feel so bad for the guy in the song. It's just... Okay, PSA over. So if you do this, you're going to meet someone that you forgot was there. Some of you are going to be like, I haven't lost touch with my inner child. And you know what? Yeah, you have. This is what we tell ourselves. And we say, but I love banking. And it's like, I'm not actually saying that you shouldn't love banking. You can fucking play hardcore in the field of banking. You can. I play with blocks. They're called pixels. I play with blocks. I have people tell me all the time, you playing with blocks is soulless. When I watch you play with blocks, it makes me think of how evil and dark and awful the world is. And I'm just like, this is what you tell a kid? When you watch a kid doing a drawing, and there's some, can kids do some fucked up drawings? You've seen them, right? You're just like, how you feeling there, Timmy? I'm fine. It's like, well, Timmy, what is this? Is this your teacher? Yes. What's going on there? He got stabbed with the taint with a knife. Well, what happened? Taintacles came down. Friend said, let down your lovely taint. The hairs from your taint. Yeah, we went to cover this. The Rapunzel. I'm losing people. I stopped tainting. Get away from the taintress. Free account says MS. Get away from the taint. Yeah. So it's the taintress. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's a good one. Stretch. Okay. So he doesn't have a show. Yeah. Yeah. We'll watch this. Watch this. So, as you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson, um, uh, kind of tore apart. If you don't know, Neil deGrasse Tyson is a TV personality he's an actor who's pretending to be a physicist. And Terrence Howard is a dude that when I was on Joe Rogan, he's an actor and he also likes to think about philosophy, okay, and things like that. And those two sort of have been going back and forth in the news, huge news. I should stop kidding. You guys have probably heard this, but last time I covered how Neil deGrasse Tyson decided to critique the paper of Terrence Howard. And in the critique, I defined for you that the first thing that he led with was the Neil deGrasse Tyson led with was the preposterous nature of insinuating that 1 times 1 does not equal 1. And that anyone that would think these things or be lost by these things is just, frankly, just kind of ridiculous and easily dismissed and wastes of time. And the only scientific proof that Neil deGrasse Tyson could actually give, believe it or not, was... I'm sorry, I'm going to show you my face. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're the first time ever I shaved my taint. Your love, right? And so these two going back and forth have really been arguing over whether or not it's conspiracy to even question math. And Neil deGrasse Tyson says you should definitely never question math, and you're silly if you do. And in this, the work of Walter Russell, someone who Neil deGrasse Tyson has also publicly dismissed as flawed, didn't actually take the opportunity to critique Walter Russell. He instead critiqued the actor Terrence Howard. And he did this 15 years ago, and he saved the paper. It's a 35-page paper by Terrence Howard, sent to Neil deGrasse Tyson, which Neil deGrasse Tyson apparently redlined. It's not Sophia sense, which would be cool as fuck, right? I want to be a Sophia scientist when I grow up. No one wants to be that. No one said I want to be a Sophiatist. A Sophiatist, in fact, would be the root of the word sophist, and sophist is actually a bad word today. Those of you who don't know the etymology, Sophia is wisdom. So philosophia is actually I have an erection for wisdom. You guys are probably like, it doesn't mean that. It means a love of wisdom. It's like, yeah, but philo, this is phallo, the root phalos, right? Remember we talked about in my book, Arc of Baphomet, which you should have, but I'm sure only 11 of you have, because for some reason that's the only amount of people that... Seriously, thanks for the reviews, those of you who reviewed it. But Arc of Baphomet's out. That actually has more than 11 reviews, but all of them are really good, and it describes these things even more. But the fact is, the reason why we spell Pharaoh, Falaho, we actually spell it Faraho, if you look at how it's spelled, is because the R's and the L's used to be merged because the ripple of understanding grew and the R's and the L's were able to splinter, much like violet and teal and azure and all these other purple were able to come out of the sea of blue, my friends. The sea of blue. Yes, that's right. So, where were we? The taintus. Man, we could do a whole show on taint. It looks like we already are, James. It looks like we already are. So, I have a few rebuttals to this. I'm going to share them with you. And it begins with a journey into C#. Now, For those of you who've seen my show, here I'll take myself off the screen for you beardists out there. You can have a little break here. Oh, thank God. Oh, God. Oh, God. So, as you guys know, I do slideshows with you guys all the time, and the slideshows is a thing we use on Google. And I'm worried about them being on Google because a lot of times Google says that I'm to this or to that. And anyway, I've been working on this slideshow thing, which is basically a three-dimensional slideshow, right? So it's my same slideshow, but it's in 3D. And I'm still test driving this. I'm actually showing you this tonight because it's fitting, but also because I sort of want to have a little bit of leeway in case something doesn't work. Just forgive me. This is really complicated code, and there's definitely a lot of things that are still wrong, so forgive me if we have some technical issues. But to explain what I mean about the flaws in how ignorant it is for someone like deGrasse Tyson, here, let me say that full screen. I need to explain how ignorant it is for Neil deGrasse Tyson to simplify the idea that numbers are all the same. As it turns out, in a real-life scenario, numbers are not all the same. In fact, numbers are so profoundly different depending on the context or the quantization of those numbers that people have gone to jail because they've profited off the nuance that exists as you change numerical dimensions. This is something that Walter Russell was in fact hinting at, but I do not think had the language to equate this into the now. And I challenge you to ask yourself, if Neil deGrasse Tyson is in fact a scientist, why did he not take that opportunity? Instead of writing Terrence the actor back, why not critique Walter Russell himself and use that as a teachable moment and then send that teachable moment to Terrence? He doesn't do that because Neil deGrasse Tyson is not in fact a practicing scientist. He's a television personality, which means he is required to quantize. This is a word you're about to learn. This is not qualia, by the way, in case some of you are wondering. This is quantize our knowledge, our knowing, in order to fit a vernacular which is acceptable by a community which knows things based on how comfortable they are to accept a reality. This is why it is called science. The the mental aspects of this, have more to do with science than you think. But it's okay, because reality itself has more to do with belief than you think. In fact, leading up to Astronosis, which I encourage you to get your tickets for, we are planning a special Pythagorean event after post Astronosis. So it is really turning out to be a thick, rich weekend of camaraderie. That's in Chicago at the Theosophical Society of America, one of the most beautiful campuses and oldest esoteric libraries there are. You'll find discount codes inside Patreon, and there's some lodging things there too. So don't forget that. In reference to the real world, numbers, in fact, are vitally different. Vitally different. And here's just a quick tour. Inside the language of C#, which is just a scripting meta-language, so it's not even like a core, there exists several different ways of explaining what a number is. And basically there are 5 dimensions of numbers. There's actually more, but just to kind of really give you a nice little spectrum here, I'd like you to picture that there are 5 colors of numbers. 5 colors. And at the lowest color of number, we're going to start with a byte. I realize that this is at the top of the page here. Sorry about that, but just bear with me. You know what? Deal with it. Deal with it. So the lowest color of the spectrum would be a byte, and it has a range of 0 to 255. Infinity would be 255 plus, right? Like there's a ceiling for the highest value possible, and 255 is it. Additionally, there's no number less than 0 itself. And that's technically what a byte is. It's considered an unsigned 8-bit integer. Do not lose me. Do not go away. I know I just said the word really sounded boring. Don't leave. Don't leave. I know there's numbers on the screen. Don't leave. Don't leave. Come back. Come back. I swear this is not about numbers. This is not about numbers. Here, we're going to go over here. You're not going to have to look at numbers for a sec. I stayed by the numbers too long. Okay, we're just going to get a little bit closer to the numbers. It's okay. It's okay. We're not going to let them fuck with us. It's okay. See that word byte? Yeah, it's a byte. It's like a meal, right? So the lowest, one of the lowest resolutions of number is a range from 0 to 255. And if we sign that 8-bit integer, we can change that 0 to 255 to negative 128 to positive, right, 128. It says 127, but that's because 0 is a number. You follow me? So all it is a byte has a range of 0 to 255. There are 255 colors possible when you're dealing with the word byte, right? And we'll just go over here. So we won't look at that, okay? So since the byte only has a range of 255, it would be impossible for you or for me or for anyone else to express look at me pushing my buttons here, to express a number larger than or more complex than 255 or 0, right? Or smaller. Additionally, any kind of decimal is just out the window. Those numbers do not exist. So I've already showed you that there's a dimension of numbers where most of the numbers don't even exist. Okay? So the concept of 1 times 1 would always have to be 1 is already falling apart because I'm showing you that in the real world, practically speaking, there are dimensions that you have to choose, and you have to know which dimension of number you are going to operate with inside of. And if you do not know that, brilliantly interesting computations start to exist inside the shadows of this realm. And these things are not new. We've known about these for a while. This is the hardest slide because it's white. But before I go on, I want to tell you that just like byte is from 0 to 255, a short is a short is just a little bit longer. Instead of 255, you can go all the way up to 65,535. And you've heard of this because there's 1080p televisions, right? Then there's high def, right? So a high def byte would be a short. Which is funny because you're like, well, why is it called a short? It's like, well, that's because there's an int, and an int is big. An integer has a range in the trillions, billions, negative 2,147,483,648, all the way up to the same, but on the positive side, right? That would be a signed integer. So it's really 4.29 million possibilities inside of an integer. Why is it that? The universal hidden language of God, I'm not kidding right now. I know we were joking about the taint, but I'm not kidding about this. The universal language of God would have to be compression. What I mean is that there is only one way that something large could be compressed that is compressed more than anything else has ever been compressed. And that one way proves itself as we study number. And it turns out that under an integer, when you were signing an integer, because keep in mind, all these things are signed in zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. Everything is quantized above the zeros and ones into a larger spectrum, and the unsigned spectrum has 4.2 million possibilities. And that's because when you try and stack those zeros and ones in the tightest compression ratio possible, then it turns out that when you get to the end column of the range that fits the largest amount, it's going to give you an integer that's 4,294,967,295. Please stay with me. I know there's two more, but a long is the same, but now look how high it is. It is like 18 gajillion, 446 cathillion, 744 catantians. It's such a large number. And then you get into a runtime specific 32-bit integer signed and unsigned. And basically these come down to it being 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit, right? And that in each of these worlds, you were getting a larger and a smaller range or spectrum or color of number. And you might think at the beginning, well, that's okay, so big deal. I mean, 1 times 1 is still going to be 1, right? I mean, that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson said. So it would absolutely have to be true. I mean, he made fun of anyone that suggested that 1 times 1 isn't that, right? And then let me see if I can... Where did I have this? I think it's going to be in interlude 3. Oh. Sorry. Give me a sec. It's not in there. It's in... do I have to rebuild it again? That is so weird. It's a big deal. It'll just take a sec. I just can't remember what window it is. Hang on a second. Black... Thanks for being here, guys. I'm just going to, just real quick, just pull up a thing here. Hopefully this isn't going to crash. I'm going to do a screen cap, and I'm going to do... It's weird this thing disappeared, because I put all this time into making sure it was up. So I'm going to go into application. I'm going to share with you a program called Unity. Free program, by the way. I encourage you all to consider it. And I think this is it. Let's see. And if I go all the way over here, and then all the way, see if I can do this. Hate I'm doing this without you, but anyway, that's what I was trying to do. Okay, so I think you can see me and hear me. Yeah, you should be able to see me and hear me. Actually, you probably can't see me. That's okay. What you can see is a 1 equals 1 script. And inside this 1 equals 1 script, I can actually go over here and I can say, let's take a value of 1 and let's do that math. Let's make an equation of we take whatever value is and multiply it by itself, right? Because 1 times 1 is always 1, right, guys? Right? And what we're going to do is all those different integer types that I was going to try and stream outside today, guys. Sorry, but the cameras for some reason stopped. But anyway, but I figured I'd give you a show anyway. So I'm here. The laptop decided it wouldn't start. Just an FYI. And sorry you're feeling lag from the show. But back here, this is really good stuff. All those different integer types that I was just showing you, right? These guys that are not those guys. That's funny. Not those guys, but like the guys that we had back on the screen back there. Those integer types are going to be right here, and I'm just going to show you what happens. So let's do the math. So if I say 1 times 1, then in integer world, 1 times 1 is 1. In decimal world, 1 times 1 is 1. In long world, 1 times 1 is 1. And in double world, 1 times 1 is 1. And in the float world, 1 times 1 is 1. So boom, problem solved, everyone can go home. 1 times 1 is 1, and there's never any difference. Unless you say $1.01. Like something is as common as that. As $1.01. Now let's do the math. And something starts to break. The numbers start to break. They're broken now. 1.01 times 1.01 in integer world equals 1. So the penny's gone. And in decimal world, it's there, but there's an extra 1 hidden 2 decimal places below it. And in the long world, the integer's still 1. We lost that penny again. And in the double world, the penny is doubled. And then you've got this giant monster, this Cthulhu, right? 99980735778. cropping up in the distance. And then in float, the number that all of us use, we have 10201. And these are different numbers. And if I do that by 2, then you start to see them squirrel out pretty quick. And then if you start to fractionalize what is actually fractionalized, the problem gets worse. Right? And the reason why it gets worse, oh my God, I'm showing you more numbers. James, stop showing people numbers. Stop it. Stop showing people numbers. And this problem isn't a problem with a weak computer. The computer can compute up to 4 trillion digits from one of those types, right? In fact, the computer has gotten closer than all of humanity ever could to actually doing real viable math, hasn't it? It's true. It has. So contextually, inside the hypothetical, we know that 1 times 1 is 1. But even in the practical world, it turns out that's not the case. The General Education Board was founded in 1903 by these gentlemen. And it was designed to foster the promotion of education in the United States of America without distinction of race, sex, or greed. And John D. Rockefeller Sr. Initially committed $1 million to this endeavor and later raised it to $43 million, which at the time was a pretty substantial purse. And so what happened is he bought the rights to an industry. The industry that he bought the rights to was education. What do you mean by bought the rights? Putting $43 million in 1907 into the educational industry at that time is essentially buying the company. The influence that you have bringing in that many tax dollars pretty much trumps anyone and anyone else's endeavors who might try and thwart or stall you giving that much money. So the context itself is pretty simple to imagine how this is possible. That back in the day, it's no different than when Google came in and said, hey, Alta Vista or web crawler or AOL or Ask Jeeves or all these other companies that were out trying to develop new cutting edge technology that was searching the web. A company like Google was given so much money, so much more money than any other company could even imagine, that they were actually able to sit down at the table and say, hey, why don't we just download the entire internet? And no one batted an eye because they could. So when you consider the industry and how an industry works, not only is an industry viable, most of the industry we have been bought, but even more importantly, the industry that we have called the governance of America has just recently been bought under Article 1, Section 9 by the World Health Organization. The government itself has been purchased. And as I've been telling you for a long time, you're watching the government shame itself, which is a way of souring the milk so that people will wean themselves off the federal teat and replace it, not with sovereignty, not with independence, but with a larger version of itself. The temple, Mayo, the crystal of that temple, the 7 layers of that crystal that formed, that turned into the 8th, which would be Washington, D.C., which turned into the 9th, which is basically Nur Sultan, which this new capital of the world is really only done by the destruction of older archetypes. And to destroy those older archetypes, you're going to need to shame them. You're going to need to call them racist. You're going to need to make politics itself so disgustingly corrupt, or allow politics to grow on the vine in such a way as to remain so consistently corrupt that it ends up leading people to the same place, which is an ejection of what is for the only alternative around, which would be something bigger. So the idea of picking up life and swallowing it for something else is something that every fish in the ocean practices. And these men are those fish. These men are saying, we want all these fish. And that there's nothing in nature that says these men are wrong. I know that we like to hate these men, and I say keep hating them. It doesn't fucking bother me. But I also think that when you're in the ocean, if you want to conserve energy, maybe if you stopped hating, you might be able to work on some sonar techniques, and you may find these guys aren't a problem. Which is the only reason why I do what I do here. That's the only reason. One of the important parts of this, which I'm sure some of you guys know, really came into effect when this guy, Edwin Waterhouse, was born. A lot of you guys don't know who Waterhouse is. Suffice it to say, just like Rockefellers had their movements into medicine, as you're about to see, Edwin Waterhouse was moving into accounting. It's a lot of you think that accounting is a boring world, and that it's pretty dry, and it's hard because the numbers, and I even showing you the numbers, I'm like, quick, change the screen, right? And so it creates a specialized field where anyone is able to grow in that field, just like in any other industry, whether it be doping, as Lance Armstrong, or against all of them, against politicians, against all the fields that we found fraud in, even at Harvard, even at Stanford, just for the last couple of years. These fraudulent things that we keep telling ourselves, oh, it's just this one time. They're not just this one time. It's just the nature of how the world works. Why don't we stop trying to be disgusted by it and just call it what it is? It's a taint. And if you had a baby, you wouldn't make fun of the baby's taint. You'd actually take care of it. You'd take care of it. You'd make sure it's clean. And if you want to understand the true nature of your reality, I need you to understand a few things. That fraud is a factor of nature. It's built into how your thalamus even runs your body. The dopamine exchanges that take place, even your retinas, really command a lot of respect around the body simply because they generate more dopamine than anyone else. The amount of importance it is that the retinas stay active and vibrant becomes crucial, because if the retinas are not able to use the holodeck to sight like things such as I will get up and have a cookie or whatever, the body's not going to go anywhere. So the entire system of nature is fraud. And when you listening to some people that are like, there's no such thing as lies in nature, I'm like, do you go outside? Because fuck, why are you so high? Because literally nature is built on the idea that I will hide this from you. And that hiding these things from you is a kind of compression. It's a way that nature preserves something valuable in order to extract it later, decompress it later, and use the force of that decompression to satisfy some other desire, right? It's a spring. The Arab spring wraps itself up onto the tension of what's done around it, and then everyone who wants to activate that spring purposely pokes and prods it into a certain direction, gets it spun in just the right way, and lets it go at just the right event, hoping to get the farthest trebuchet, right? Trebuchet from it, right? So we know that this is just how energy works, and it would make quite sense that nature would start to utilize any kind of compression that it could in the fields of energy themselves. It would be necessary in order to survive. It's quite impossible to consider that you could have gotten out of the conservation of energy. You've been in a genetic kindergarten for hundreds of thousands of years, as you've developed the way to utilize every single part of you to paint a picture that's the most accurate of your environment. So there's no reason why you'd suddenly stop now. If anything, you'd be doing it more now than you've ever done it before. And it turns out that you are. So inside this field of accounting came this guy, Edwin Waterhouse, a big icon, the same as from the rest of these families. And just 2 years later, the Flexner Report was published in 1910. The same Carnegie Foundation founded the Flexner Report. The Flexner Report probably was the most instrumental piece of literature, scripture, to ever have a more profound effect over an industry than anything else. Even as late as the 70s, people are still asking for the Flexner Report in some kind of really disgusting like nod to traditionalism. And if you actually read the report, most of it is actually calling botany fraud. Like if you utilize any kind of science in the study of plants, you are a fucking quack. The word quack was developed off of this Bible. And botany was one of the main proponents on the list. And this was at a time where we've definitely had to, when I say we, I mean the proverbial shitheads who have inherited this world in this genre have clearly had to come back and say, okay, botany's a thing. Turns out botany's a thing. Turns out there's aloe is a fucking thing, turns out fucking Anison is like a giant company because fucking tree bark is a thing that has fucking I'm cussing again. You get it. It's the congruening of the industry, and no one stops it. This is the only point of the slide, is that no one stops it. No one actually stops this and says we want to come back. In fact, 100 years later, we still feel the tinge as we're discussing blank inserts. We're still feeling the tinge of why are we so gullible? Why do we just simply listen to anyone who has $46 million, right? Because really, that's what we're doing. And then in 1987. This stuff's been going. It's a long time frame between them. Forgive me for not having more slides, but this is what we got here. This is in 2008. Satyam Computer Services, founded in 1987, and by 2008 had revenue of over $2 billion, which is not that much in this time frame, but at the time they were the largest IT company that ever existed. As far as like political power, world power, they worked with some of the biggest financial firms around, some of the biggest number firms around. Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, over 185 Fortune 500 companies underneath the umbrella of this one IT firm. This IT firm handled every single transaction that occurred financially, all the compression of their data, right? All the important stuff that goes into it. And they were verified by this company, PwC. PwC used to be that Peters Waterhouse company, pretty famous company. In fact, they got into scandal where they were protecting the Oscar secrets, and apparently they lost them, which I think was a Wayne Sexton moment. If you're new to my work, I don't know if I have time to explain what a Wayne Sexton moment is, but it's almost like the public kind of is shown something on purpose, but we don't always know why exactly. I mean, we have different theories, but I think it's usually a different reason because it depends on the agency. A lot of times it's like a blackmail exchange or like a show of leverage or a show of severance. But this thing we can get into later. But this one accounting firm, studied by that first dude, by that Edwin guy, founded by him, from the times of Carnegie, was able to build a firm that existed in 157 countries, 742 locations, 328,000 employees. Their annual revenue in 2022 was $50 billion. Like I said, they handled the secret voting for the Oscars. And I'm telling you this because I want you to see that it's not an accident that in our world we end up with one or two people like running an entire industry. And you know this because it's just so ubiquitous. There's not one industry you can think of where there's not a powerhouse that just overshadows everyone by a long shot, and then no one else is there. It's always singular. It always looks that way. And I want you to know why it's shaped that way. There's a reason why it's shaped that way. And the reason why it's shaped that way is because in every single one of those situations, you're seeing the bell curve of doping. I'm using the term doping in a more metaphorical sense here. As I said last time, Lance Armstrong didn't teach the world that he doped. He taught the world that the entire industry, the peloton of Tour de France, if you're going to be in the lead, You're going to have to stick a needle in your ass. You're going to have to shrink your balls. And if you want to compete enough to where you could actually win, this is what's required. It's not Lance was doing something no one else saw. Lance wasn't exposing that the world of Tour de France was corrupt and everything else was clean. It was us that decided that only Lance was dirty. Or it was us that compartmentalized it and decided that only cycling's dirty. These things, it's not even accurate to call them dirty, my friends. They're not even dirty because they're just so standard. They're standardized. The math that I showed you when it comes to the decimals of these numbers has been around for a long time. This math happens when you start to use big integers because things do not scale. Reality does not scale in such a simplistic way as someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson insists. The reason why he's not able to go into Walter Russell is because he would have to fucking explain that, which is what I'm trying to do now. I'm just using a lot of cuss words, that's all. So as we really look deeper into this, I need you to understand, or I want you to understand, that you're going to be able to look at the taint of society much easier if you accept that fraud would be quite natural. That even inside the reef there is fraud. That in the most holistic places that you can imagine in nature, even inside of children, there is fraud. There are monkeys that have been taught sign language. And they've been caught on camera sneaking into the break room and stealing fruit. And when when they're confronted, they make up a lie. They've either blamed another trainer or another monkey. They construct a story. Even something as primitive as a monkey utilizes the importance of creating a disclosure, protecting himself in the umbrage of this idea of you not knowing. And it helps them too. They don't know. If you watch any cop video when a guy's pulled over and there's like a police chase, and typically the more popular ones, if you watch someone break down, or DUI videos, the same thing. They almost automatically slip into a state of, what did I do? What did I do? I don't know what I did, man. And they're trying to use the fact that because you haven't told me what I did, or because I don't know what I did not do anything. And that this is a core part of who we are. We learned this the moment we understood that there was no such thing as freedom of speech. We learned from day one that speech is expensive. What we did is we broke off our olfactory and lied to ourselves enough to where we could create a society that had speech being free, even though it's not. We dope too. Our society dopes too. And these tales are always taken wrong when people who watch these fraud cases say, oh, look at them, those fraudsters, those evil, rotten fraudsters. Because no, this is nature. This is you too. This is you and me. You defrauded yourself today to get out of bed. You defrauded yourself. All the navigation that you did has been this long, glorious fraud that you started years, if not decades ago, which is why I recommend some of you should maybe try a tail. I think all of you should try a tail, by the way. I think all of you should. It's not a punishment. It's a doorway. It's a doorway. And, I don't think we're ready for it. But if you don't, that doorway is closing in 7 days. So, let's get back to this. This firm, Waterhouse's firm, verified the authenticity of Enron. And then Enron was, fell. And then WorldCom, same thing. And before that happened, a year or two before Enron happened, something big happened. The big four accounting firms, this is known throughout the world, is the big four, are the four largest professional service networks in the world. Deloitte, EY, KPMG, and PwC, right? PwC is the Waterhouse one. Excuse me. All of these guys service most of the larger corporations in the world. And I don't know if you know why. Why would every single large corporation in the world utilize the same accounting firm? And the reason why is because of fraud. I'm pretty sure there's at least one light bulb had to have just gone off. And maybe no one's thought of this before, which is why I'm sharing it. The reason why is because of fraud. Arthur Andersen, which was a pretty popular firm, died in 2002. And they died in 2002 because they had verified a bunch of companies that were not verified. They should not have been verified. And I think the reason why is because the other four accounting firms, one of them being PwC, actually offered to buy Arthur Andersen, and Arthur Andersen said no. And you're looking at pirates. These are pirates, guys. Deloitte, EY, KPMG, and PwC are corporate pirates. I know you've heard that term before, but I don't know if you actually really understand. These guys are outside the realm of cultural norm. And when they have a takeover, it literally is much more of a cannibalistic operation. This is one fish with 300,000 employees eating another fish with 28,000 employees. Again, founded in 1913. And it makes sense only if you think about fraud. Only if you think about fraud does this make sense. If you understand that fraud is necessary in order for these larger companies or there to be a pinnacle place to be, then it would make sense that there would only be 3 or 4. Just like there'd be only 2 parties. Just like there'd be only one scientific method. Our only scientific method right now is majoritarianism. Can you get someone else to vouch for what you just saw? That's the entire method of what we consider known, is whether or not you can get someone to vouch for you. This is how prisons operate. Same thing. Exact same system, guys. Of course, WorldCom, huge scandal. And that was even bigger than Enron. Enron was so big, $63 billion in assets. And it's not a coincidence that a year after Enron, WorldCom went. These two things went because a new world was coming, a world that you and I had to find out about in the Olympics by watching the ceremony, and that these people knew this was coming before, and in order to move ships to go to a new ship, these two entities, belief entities, have to go. If you've read Ayn Rand, then you know that the Daneskul, the copper merchant, led people off a cliff like lemmings, and he said the reason why he did it is because they deserved it. They deserved it because they were blindly following him. They weren't doing their homework. And he thought that it was hurting the world to have people that didn't do their homework in it, because you end up building things like this. And so he did. There's a code of ethics for Enron. And before it went down, shareholders filed a $40 billion lawsuit. It literally said, you guys did something wrong. You were doing your accounting wrong. And the shareholders agreed, yeah, you're right. And they paid $7.2 billion. And you know what happened? The company still stayed alive. It took a long time for that company to sink, and the reason why it did sink, but the reason why it took long is the same reason why fraud survives when you push that hard. Enron dropped from $91 per share down to $1. And the reason why it survives is because people do not want to admit that it's fraud. In fact, you can survive more if you cling to other people that insist it's not there. And our world proves that. It actually proves that that's the case. So how did all this happen? Floating point math. Those numbers I showed you, where here's an extra penny that shows up and here's a penny that disappears. That's how. Remember the IT firm? This guy started that IT firm. He's still in jail. And that IT firm employed the use of compression between different number types. The exact thing that Neil deGrasse Tyson says is silly, is a waste of time to consider. The exact same thing that he says is a waste of time to consider has been used to defraud through software embezzlement several times. This is just one of the largest ones. This is Bank of America. This is Merrill Lynch. 178 companies on the New York Stock Exchange. All of them have their own auditors. All of those 178 companies, Fortune 500 companies inside their auditors, never bothered to look. And you might say, well, they didn't bother to look because they're lazy. No. This is Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong's not lazy. Lance Armstrong works out more than you and I or did. He works out more than you and I combined. I don't need you to like him or hate him. I just need you to admit the guy probably worked out a lot. Like a lot. This is not about being lazy. The reason why you do not tell your boss, hey dude, all this money that we're getting laundered, that we're all this accounting is fraudulent, is because you will lose your job. You will not survive in this place. It's not going to happen. And this is a corporate atmosphere, but this corporate atmosphere petrifies over time, and we end up with civil asset forfeiture. What does that mean? If I drive across the country with a suitcase with $10,000, any local sheriff can stop me, any federal agent can stop me, see that case of money and say, this is ours now. You can have it back if you come to court and prove to us that this is not a nefarious transaction. James, you're not explaining that right. There's no way. Yes, it is the case. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not ignoring facts. This is civil asset forfeiture. Look it the fuck up. This is how it fucking works. And there is a laundering effort that exists, which is, by the way, just 2 days ago, Fort Lauderdale, maybe it's not Fort Lauderdale, someone in TSA working in customs was busted for like 14 grand, just stealing $1,000 from like 14 different people. Why? Because money had to be inspected. And society, nature is where it is. And this is anarchy. The people that are telling you, I wish we lived in anarchy, they need to understand how close their nose is to their taint, because they're not paying attention to what really is. This is the nature of what it is. It's a psychological anarchy, which means we get to paint it and call it whatever the fuck we want. And we're going to paint it in a way where we are legitimately good. It's the system that's fucked. And if the system would just fix itself, our legitimate awesomeness would be able to shine and everything would be perfect. And this is what placebo comes from, my friend. This is good stuff. This is pulling 1.06110595824403 when you multiply 1.03 times 1.03. Am I right? Carry the 2. All right. Carry the 2. Drop the 2. 1 times 1. All that stuff. Hope you guys are having a good day. Hope everybody's having fun. I know you're looking at me a lot. I'll try and alleviate that for some of you closeted gay men who don't like the fact that I don't have a beard. By the way, I don't mind that you're gay, but being closeted, it's like you're an adult in your closet. It's like, dude, get an imagination, right? So you did it. You learned quite simply. I showed you through the code, by the way, that bytes are range from 0 to 255, shorts are from 0 to 65,000, 4.3 million for unsigned integers, and long integers. Look how long that number is. And then simply by converting backwards and forwards between these things, you end up going to and from a dimension, which is kind of, I want you to think about true or false is the same thing. Just like there are 256 colors inside of a byte, like a number has 256 shades of color, you could say. A Boolean, a true-false value, has 2. It's a binary, right? It's things that are either true or false. There's no in between. There's no maybe. It's either true or false. You and I can have a default for which one, but it doesn't matter. We have to choose one. So the entire world is going to have to be seen. And this is what, when you hear people talking about a binary, this is a way of thinking about this. If you have no choice, if you're like, yeah, but I gave you $1.25, but under a binary, that quarter would not exist because I showed you the math. Because in integer math, 1.01 plus 1.01 is 1. 1.25 plus 1.25 is 1. Hey, guess what? 1.99, you're not gonna like this. 1.99 plus 1.99 in integer math is 2 or 1. It's 1. I know you probably just really got confused, but 1.9 in integer is 1. So even if you have $1.99, it's still 1. And anyone who has a simplistic mind, who looks at the world in black and white, would reject the truth of 99 cents and claim it doesn't count for anything. And that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson does. That's what anyone does who's insisting to you how absurd it is to think that somehow math changes. We quantize our world based on our ability to count. I've shown you that the Aztec fifth sun, right? That every 52 years they would come by and reset the hearth, that all your cookware, your entire house would go dark for 5 solid days, no fires at all, because it was giving you a chance to wipe the calendar clean, to wipe the slate clean, because 52 years was a lot of neurons to keep track of for a fledgling consciousness. And right now, if you look at our calendar, every 400 years, you can repeat the calendar and all the days fall in the same, right? Where every Sunday matches up with the different things, all the leap years match up. So you could look at it that we went from a Mayan idea of 52-year cycle to a phonetic loop of 52 years. This is a neurological term, but it's like your capacitance, your desktop space, changes from 52 years as a Mayan to 400 years as a Roman. And as you consider all these numbers, it's giving you a better clue that in a binary world, it would be one of two, right? On or off. In a byte world, it would be 0 to 255, or 256 shades of possibility of true and false would fit, that it's really true as could be, and then it's really false as true, but then it's kind of true. It's almost false. It's mostly true, kind of false, right? So that's the bite of this. And then if you got better, if you mastered primary colors, you would start to develop tertiary colors, secondary colors. You start to see the shades of truth in the world. And this is why I call it aperture. It's really the only word that fits. It's a diaphragm that's slowly open, and that diaphragm is purely based on your ability to quantize that event. Quantize meaning to separate the hues of color between them. And I think the old world of thinking thought that, well, the world itself has quantized those things for us and that we only have these so many shades of color, and it's just not true. There's a lot of evidence to that. If you read my latest book, Black Eye Club, you'd even know a lot more about that, because you know that there's even certain cultures that didn't even have a word yet in their dictionary for blue. In fact, gru was a word that two different civilizations that had nothing to do with each other both developed. It was their best attempts to start to see a shade of green that was a little bit more bluish. And so you're watching a civilization move from a integer type thinking or a byte type thinking, a little bitty byte, 256, to an integer, 4.29 million or billion possibilities, right? So numbers are quantized. And in music, it's quantized too. You know, when you first learn music, you'll play a recorder and you'll have 8 notes: do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and those are the octave. But then as you get better, you start to notice, wait a minute, there's a chromatic scale, bitch. And chroma is chromosome, light bodies. So your chromosomes are your light body. In fact, I was thinking about this the other day, because if you really think about what numbers are the ontological teeth. Bear with me. Numbers are the ontological teeth your mind uses to place a ladder inside of a spectrum where it did not exist before. And that if we did not have the ability to hypothesize, to hypotheticalize a step inside of a spectrum, a doe is doe because Ray is not doe. That's really how Ray was invented. Doe is doe because Ray is not doe. So the affirmation of doe only comes through the suggestion that is Ray. Your eyes, Ray, would be red. Believe it or not, red light is the first color that you started to distinguish. You used to just see things brightly, doely. Things were either making doughs or they were not, right? So the world had doughness in it. It had a sound, but the sound didn't have a frequency. It was only through the birth of red that frequency starts to come. So numbers themselves are the creative fingers we use to split apart the hue, this curtain, so that we can digest it. It's like how you bite into the rainbow. You can only bite into the rainbow by imagining that it has a red layer, and that red layer must have a flavor that's different. And you probably imagicate the different hues, the different colors as you have, right? It's really would be the how consciousness unfolds, wouldn't it? Like how exactly does consciousness unfold? It would unfold like this. All right, I think I'm gonna do a break. Let's see if this works. You should hear a sound. All right, that was it's back again. I'll try and fix it. I will try, and if I can find which way, there is the button, and I must turn it off, 'cause it is a kind of addicting, and I can't stop. Yes. Okay. Why do I still hear it? Oh yeah, that's because it's coming in here. That's right. That's how you do it. Hope you guys are having a good time. Hey, there's some pretty spooky lighting, right? Hope you guys are having a good time. Listen, I'm the dark one. I'm the dark one. If you guys don't start straightening up, the numbers are going to come get you because the numbers are coming to get you because nothing can take away the power of the numbers. Do you understand? I want you to take 1.06 and multiply it by 1.06 and try and not tell me that in a double format you do not get 1.06110598524403. I'll wait. That's right. Guess I showed you. Anyway, happy Monday, everybody. We having a good time here. You know, doing things, hanging out. This is Monday School. It's working on Monday School. Like I said, launched some new software today. Hope you're enjoying that. Hope you guys even noticed that it's different because it's like, holy fuck, the amount of code that went into that. Oh my god. And it rains numbers. That's pretty cool. That was sort of a late night accident. But yeah, it rains all kinds of things. I might show you frogs one day, but you're going to have to be good. Speaking of which, being good, if you're not a patron, why are you freeloading, man? Get off the fucking airship. What the fuck, dude? You can't park here. You know, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, you know? Maybe consider that because, man, it'd be great. You know, I used to do the show every day. And it takes a lot of energy to do that. And if you like the content and you'd like to see a show like this, do maybe even run every day, you just give it up, man. Fucking give it up. Open up that taint. Unzip that taint. Pull out some, I'm just going to stop the analogy right there. That's fine. You don't have any questions? Anyone have any, I actually should go over some comments here. There are comments. To some extent, I feel your channel should remain a secret, says Al Hassani 626. He said that to Talking Reptiles Part 1. And Al Hassani, your wish is granted. Well done. Hats off to you, my friends. Seriously, glad you got what you wanted. Draconian Method asks, what's the point of talking about God with women? What's the point of talking about God with women? I don't know if Draconian is a woman or a man. I don't even know if they had to be both. It could be a hermaphrodite, right? It could be a eunuch. It could be someone who hasn't entered puberty. Guys, one person, Grace Jean, one of your best to my. Oh, thank you. One person said, James, so you think that people, make sure I word this as respectful as I can. So James, you think that children are being tortured because they weren't allowed to be trans women when they were kids. That was it. And I think if you could take a snapshot of that statement, I think you'd see the digitization that we just talked about. There are people in the world that need a Boolean, a true false, to see all the spectrum, even when Wikipedia tells them, yeah, you've got three genders. There's three different chromosomal variations that determines what kind of hoo-hoo wing-wings you got. Your tentacle architecture is determined by one of three major categories that we categorize as chromosomes. And so even the facts of science themselves actually say there's not two. But because you're thinking in the binary, right, you end up putting it in two. I have no problem with the binary, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. If we're going to survive as a species, we needed to get into a binary and make some fucking babies. Guys, AC power is power where the alternating current, that's why it's called AC, right? The alternating current is exchanged between the sender and the receiver so that the sender is able to send more based on when it's needed. DC is different, right? AC is two-way. It's asynchronous, right? Two poles. DC, one pole. Singular power from one place to another. BC, but remember, DC still has two wires, doesn't it? Positive, negative, right? What does AC have? Three. You've got a ground, you've got a hot, you've got a neutral, right? Three. AC is three. Stay with me. DC is two. DC is two, and BC is one. BC power. BC power, DC power, and AC power, right? Your prong, if you're in America, that's actually this way. I'm not Some of you guys just tuning in, they're thinking I'm talking about the taint right now. This is not about the taint. This is actually the electrical equivalents in America, but that's AC. And then DC is two fingers. Still looks like a taint thing. And then BC. What is BC? Think about it. The Falaho, the pharaoh, is the singular power. One obelisk, one hole. You only plug in one. See what I mean? See how that works? BC power is ring in the finger, right? The Ophelio, right? You should read Ark of Baphomet. So that binary, you end up losing 99 cents because of someone who only has that spectrum. The same way colorblind people can't distinguish between red and green because both neurons are firing at the same time. The opsins, the chemicals, are in fact distinguishing the two different colors. The thing is that two neurons have to fire at the same time. Either one of them telling you it's red, but then the other one telling you it's red, but it's not that kind of red, which makes it green. And it is those two firings which cause the color blindness because of the digitization of the color. That you would be colorblind the same way that you would insist that, like this lady did, that children want to be trans women before puberty. And I'm arguing that why are we sexualizing children? Isn't it interesting that I'm on the other side on this, but I'm coming from the fact that you're sexualizing children to insist the other way? If you are going to force a gender on a child that has not entered into puberty, that's pedophilia. I get that you're like, oh my God, what are you saying? And unsubscribe. Do it quick. You don't want to hear what I have to say. I'm just going to convince you even more. You don't fucking want that. You better get out while you still can. Because if you want to insist that a child that's still in that state, that's pre-puberty, that they're either a man or a woman, you are sexualizing that child. You are sexualizing them. So that the very heart of the people that are insisting that we are that they're trying to sexualize our children are sexualizing their children. I swear to you, that's what the fuck's happening. Thank you, Mel. I swear to you, that's exactly what's happening. And you know what? It's no different than every crusade, right? Oh, we must cleanse ourselves of evil people, of witches, so we're going to fucking burn. It's the same thing. So we're sexualizing people because we cannot cope with the digitization going away. That's all. The digitization is going away and it makes you nervous, so you freak the fuck out. And the closest thing that you're going to be able to think, if you're in the binary, is this is about sex. You're going to think it's about genitals. You're going to think it's about taint. You're going to think it's about promiscuity for some reason. You're going to think the worst of what you think, not because of the art itself, but because of the change. And you're never, ever, 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 none of us will ever, ever admit, I'm afraid of change. No one in the history of change has ever admitted that what was bothering them was that they were afraid of change. They will tell you that the reason why they were afraid is due to some orthodoxy or some kind of insistence that we must cling to the saran wrap of this invisible film that separates us from the deadly tongue of someone that's trying to lick us. I'm trying to just picture how saran wrap would help, but it's just like that has always been the excuse. It's always been a sense of orthodoxy, a sense of preservation of a union that magically means something now when it didn't before. It's always an insistence of, look how pious I am. Look at the purity of me because I'm more disgusted than you. And as we talked about last time, this would be how the exact same sort of herd mentality would work, that you listen to the fear. And that so anyone who's listening to the fear in the herd would suddenly realize that those who preach the fear would be listened to. If you want to be heard, you will talk about fear. Heard it from a friend who Heard it from another, you've been messing around. Doom, doom. I'm going to get copyright struck. It's so good. So, I like the audio. It reminds me of the open skate you used to do. Always hit different. Yeah, it's because no one has to see my face, Blue. That's why. Guys, if you're wondering, I think I'm fucking gorgeous. I can't get out of bed. I get up in the morning, I'm just like, oh my God, you're so fucking hot without a beard, James. I'm the only one. Well, there's one more. And you know what? That's all it takes. That's all it takes. It really doesn't matter. Yeah, I would listen to that guy, but he doesn't have facial hair, and so therefore we should all collectively ridicule him because clearly he's gay. It's like stuff like that. Great talk all around. I try not to tell you guys that stuff, although I appreciate that. I love the comments. Always helps. I thought that maybe that was actually it about the sexualizing of children. I do think that's pretty much. Another guy said he said this is why you're alone, and I guess he thought it was more about my article. I don't think he even watched the stream, and I had an interesting time with that. Remember, we've been talking about this majoritarianism, right? And it would make sense if what I was saying, that majoritarianism was so prevalent and so real, then it would make sense that the source of wanting to ridicule someone in a majoritarian society would be, this is why you're alone, meaning this is why you don't have a partner. And I want you to think about the mechanics of you are at fault by not having a partner. And I've seen this world. I've seen the partners that are in this world. Some of the shittiest fucking relationships I've ever fucking seen. It's atrocious how horrible these people treat each other, especially in front of their own children. And they're going to sexualize their children. Why? Because they're fucking mad at each other. They're mad at each other because they cannot find the space. They cannot create enough space to go into the garage at night and order that fucking tail from Amazon. Check description for a link. I'm just kidding. I don't have a link. But go get your fucking tail, order it, and hide it. Because if you keep that hidden tail in the garage, hidden, put it with the tetherball. No one plays fucking tetherball. Dude, you know no one's going to fucking play tetherball. You kept the tetherball just so you could have a box to put this tail in. You got to wrap that tail up in a nice fabric. You'll find something. You know what to do. A pillowcase, right? A pillowcase. And you're gonna put that tail in there. You don't even have to put it on yet. The fact that you've created a secret spot where you're hiding a fucking toy, and you're a grown ass fucking man, you are winning. You are winning. This is winning now. This is winning. And when you live alone, that's all you do. I got fucking tails everywhere. There's so many tails. Guys, I have built a mouse tube. I don't call the exterminator. I built a mouse tube. I think that I can get the mouse on camera one day. I am in play. The reason why I'm in play is because when I tried to gender Kate, when I tried to grow the beard and I tried to do everything right and I met you guys with nothing but solid logic, you fuckers stabbed me in the back. I hope you hear this endearing as I mean it, but seriously, I played every card right. Going through this whole process, even with my wife and my marriage, I played every card. I get that you're like, oh, yes, I make mistakes all the fucking time. I'm telling you. I've written books about how many times I've fucked up. Typically when I fuck up, it's usually a pretty advanced thing. I'm just saying it usually is. Doesn't mean it all the time, but usually it is. Usually it's a very nuanced thing that ends up with a horrible use of style. And I think that any pro that you're watching wield a tennis racket or a paintbrush is the same way. You're going to see a different caliber of mistake from them. And the caliber of mistake when someone tries to say, but you're alone, is hilarious to me because I love myself so much. I can't even imagine how that would hurt, is what I'm trying to say. And this is not a thing that I've had because I'm fucking He-Man, although I am fucking He-Man, and because I've managed the power of Grayskull, and I fucking have. It's because I didn't have this before and I gained it. And I stopped with small talk, the head talk, and I stopped with sarcasm. The sarcasm, I think, is more important. You can still have fun and joke. This is not about be serious. This is about make sure that your tongue is always aimed in the proper direction, because you really want to perfect the accuracy of your tongue. Your tongue is your tail. It is your tail. And I know I'm telling you to go out and buy one, but that's because I want you to understand that you can associate into fucking fabric. And when you associate into fabric, you will return to a childlike state, and that childlike state doesn't have a fucking gender, so stop trying to give it one. You are not going to be able to play if you're busy imagining yourself as one mode of a BC circuit. That BC circuit is necessary to propagate a species, and after a time, a species changes its mode. It ceases to focus all of its nutrients and growth on fertility and decides to push it into something else, whether it be structural changes, root congruency, haptics, connection with other species, building the underground psyllium network, fitting into the economy of that system. All of those things would be the necessary progression from a sexualized realm of binary thought into a integer, into a bite-sized 256 realms of mode. And what would those modes be? The same thing back when we had Unix, the same thing when my friend Cameron tells me that Norse mythology has always had 3 genders. That all we're doing is just simply looking at the spectrum that's already there and applying more hues to it. And you know what? I don't even fucking care if you don't do it. I don't fucking need you to do it. I don't need you to do it. There's not a crusade. People aren't being hurt by your insistence on having a binary. Your insistence on having a binary is nature extracting itself through you so it can see itself. So if the binary is the only way you could see, man, fucking sexualize all the children. Fucking do it. Sexualize every single person you can. And absolutely insist that this person fit into whichever category you want. Go ahead. People do that anyway. People do that with good and evil, black and white, right? He's either for us or against us. It's either for us or against us. Like, what a Nimrod fucking thing to say. Okay. That's great, man. Good luck with that. You know what that's called? Where we go one, we go all. And it sounds sexy as fuck, doesn't it? Oh, where we go one, we go all. Oh my God, that sounds sexy as fuck. Yeah. What if everyone's like, hey, dude, why don't we fucking go over to Vietnam, drive a speedboat around, and see if we can get someone to yell? As soon as someone flips us off, we'll fucking bomb them. Then we'll start a fucking war. Then we'll come over here and plant 200,000 fucking landmines. And then we'll leave and bitch about how much we were hurt. Yeah, let's do that. Let's fucking do that. Where we go one, we go all. Yeah, let's fucking do that. Yeah. See, digitization. The only reason why you have to fall from the grace of digitization is because that's how you unfurl. This place. Fucking magical. Oh. The taint of God is all around you. The taint of God is all around you. The taint. Please open your hymn to page 17. We're going to sing The Taint of God is all around you. The taint of God is all around you. The taint of God is everywhere. The taint of God is all around you. Yeah, I should probably have more interludes. There we go. Good to see everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. Great to see you guys. No idea. The stats of the stream, I think it's fine that way. Yeah, if you caught the show earlier, we went over a lot. We discussed how numbers are I think I just remember where I put that interlude with the numbers. I think it's in, is it interlude 3? Or is it interlude 2? You see what I'm saying? Look, these numbers, they don't add up. They don't add up. Let's do some math. See? 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. Oh, it's solved. Everything's fine. No, it's not. Hit that like, will ya?
Oh, and comment too, yeah.
See, look, it doesn't add up, guys. 1 times 1 is not 5. This is a taintature, overture, the taint horn, I think. Yeah.
Hey yada hada yada hey yo.
Hey yada 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 hey yo.
Hip hip it up.
Hip hip it up.
Ride yada 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 yo. Rub up 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 up.
Rub up 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 up.
Reeb up biddy bop.
Reeb up biddy bop.
Ride yada 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 yo.
$65 billion just for converting an integer into a long. And there are things called ticks. Some of you have ticks. But in the software world, so a long time ago, back when I was a programmer, I wrote in a language called Perl, P-E-R-L, Practical Extraction and Reporting Language. It's a brilliant language. If you have a child and you like, what should they learn if they want to take up programming, and they're into it, get them to learn Perl. Just amazing language. And Perl it tries to make things simple, so it tries to pull a Neil deGrasse Tyson. It tries to insist that all numbers are the same and that there's no problem switching between the quantization of the dimensionality of it. It's a very low budget way to understand things, which is something you would expect from Neil deGrasse Tyson, honestly. It's very Bill Nye, too. They both have this very simplistic way of insisting that the world is a Boolean. It's a kind of bigotry if you think about it. But if you believed in scientism, right? If you believe in science, then that means that you would have to dismiss everything that you experience. We have a word, we call it anecdote, which means something that actually happened, but we're dismissing because you haven't found someone who's willing to vouch for you yet. And until you found someone to vouch for you, it didn't exist. So science is always about pairs. And this is fascinating, my friends. Fascinating what I'm about to say. Lean in, please. For you see, when you deal in pairs, Matt, now you really got to look at my face. When you deal in pairs, something profound happens. If you change the entire world where you're going to only deal in pairs, where Every single thing that exists is going to have to be based on two, which is, think about it, the scientific method insists that the only thing real has been verified by a second party, which means that it's happened twice. So the only thing that could possibly exist under the realm of science is something that's doubled. So any singular event doesn't exist. So the singular event, according to science, which is, I'm fine with this. This is fascinating. I don't mind. The singular event is actually a quantum. In science, if you were to have this as a strict adherence, you are a fucking quantum. Science has dismissed you as a probability. That's why so many people are called Bob. Probability. Someone just said, "Oh my God, that's funny." Actually, you didn't. I just did. That was me. He who smelt it dealt it. It was me. But the probability of the singularity is moot, according to science. And I think this is really at the heart of why we never get to talk about Walter Russell. We do not get to have a conversation about the voxel. I hate to complicate it, but it's not even a 3-dimensional pixel because it has to do with time. So it's like a 4 or 5-dimensional pixel, but let's call it 3. A 3-dimensional pixel, which would mean that everything that exists in the world is simply a canvas, a voxel, like a pixel. And forgive me for repeating this, but just in case there's new people, you go to that voxel and you assign it. You say, hey, in this voxel, I want this to be granite. I want this to be carbon. And in this voxel, I want this to be crystal. And if you imbue every one of those voxels with a script, and all that script has to do is remember what it was. What's fascinating about this world is that the entire material world, all of it works simply by matter remembering itself. That's all it takes. That as long as every voxel remembered that, oh, well, I was a piece of carbon a moment ago, that would be all it would take to live inside of a fully working, nebulous, omnipresent, omniscient system. Maybe not omnipresent, because we're still learning to tap in. But if you think about it, all things would be known because all things could be memorized. And if all voxels could be memorized, then that means over time, those voxels could be assignable. Here's how it works. The game of Pong, the oldest video game ever invented, is voxels that are being hurled across the screen. Blip, 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 blip. See, I'm wearing a gay bracelet. And even now, even though I've been wearing it all month, because I want to succeed as a live streamer, remember what I told you earlier about wear this and you feel this field. I love that I feel this field because it reminds me that there's real energy. And the red pheasant of this, the fact that it's dangerous, it's dangerous to be misinterpreted by people that you're trying to signal that I'm cool and please keep watching me, right? So by wearing this thing, it's purposely reminding me that the placebo has to come from up here, the frontal lobe we talked about, right? The very heart of where you lie is this sonar dome, this nebulous dome that sends out a plasma signal. It's not a sound signal like a dolphin. It's a belief signal, and it bounces off the world, and it comes back, and it says, hey, this guy believes in you. This guy does not believe in you. And the places where you can exist in the world are the places that come back saying, this place believes in you. This area believes in you. It's no different than saying, here's a blue lagoon. You can go here. There's a lot of fish here. Here you can't go because there's a big rock in the way. So back to Russell, if you think about the voxels, if you think about the idea of there being an imbued space, that all it has to do is remember itself, there's never really ever has to be a supercomputer. You don't need an additive centralized system to memorize. This is why we've learned asynchronous. Remember, 3 pokes of the taint is AC. AC teaches you that you do not need a centralized place of all power and everyone else receives it. AC is more of a handoff, right? And that this is getting us into, I know you guys aren't going to know this word, but it's objective-oriented programming, which is really just the same as like node essence. The essence of nodes is your IP address. Right now, you and I are having a psychic conversation because we each know each other's IP address. Both of us have plasmatically imagined an antenna, an antler, a keratin stalk that's grown out of our head that receives a signal over a silicon soil, that when I pound the silicon over here, you all the way over there in England, if you shape your antenna into 154.168.12.18, you end up hearing me. Did you know that an IP address, each of those numbers is 255 digits long? And now you know why. You know why because those are bytes. Remember? Those are bytes, 256 values. So, does Neil deGrasse Tyson really not know these things? Or is he an actor and he's simply understanding how crucial it is that he explains the world that he truly sees as a binary and is here to describe it for you, to simplify it for you? And anyone who tries to complicate the simplification would be his enemy, which is why he uses ridicule. And anyone who's trying to navigate or, let's say, regulate a population that doesn't know what they're doing, that lives in, here's what I mean, I don't mean this in bad, that is living in a place where they don't know, none of us know how we got here. None of us know. And if you think about how, if none of us know what we got here, what does that do to us? And the answer is it kind of freaks us out, you know? Like it kind of freaks us out where we don't know where to go, we don't know who to listen to or what to do. I hope I can fix this. Yeah. Wait, I have to hit reload again. Sorry. And when you start to look at the complexity of all these things, and you're just so tired, you'll slip by. You'll gladly dismiss botany itself. You'll reject all plant life. As long as you can find someone who's willing to quantize something, to simplify things, and eliminate all belief, all technology into a central binary. There is a doctor, there is a patient, there is a virus, there is an infection. All of these would be the simplistic language that someone in kindergarten would need and want in order to sustain a hallucination they had about the true nature of this world and how it worked, you know? Like, it would take all that. And none of us know why we're here. Tyson pretends like he does. Bill Nye pretends like he does. The BBC pretends like they do. And it makes them feel good. And there's nothing wrong with feeling good. There's nothing wrong with feeling good. I'd like to thank you for being here. Hope you're having a good time. Hope you're enjoying the show. I'd like to take this opportunity to plug my books. I've written 7 of them. My latest one is Black Eye Club. It's a sci-fi. It's a beautiful time to get on board this ride. It's a love story about a guy that loses his ex-wife and then clones her, discovers a secret society, and invents a serum that allows him to see demons and ghosts in the world. It's a long-form sci-fi that goes over a couple books. I've already got version 2 waiting for you. It's called Quantum Rapture, which is book 2. And it's slowly uncovering maybe one of the reasons why we are here. Maybe the only reason how this place could work. And it points to this never-ending story, this morphosis, this endless pagan pretzel that beginning and the end are the same place. And the only thing really different is just simply how much we remember. It's kind of a giant lung breathing. In this series, Quantum Raptures, Book 2, Black Eye Club's Book 1. Would love to hear what you think. You can buy those now. Ark of Baphomet is a book that really explores a lot more into the hermaphroditic history of who we are as people. By the way, a lot of people don't know this, but there have been people that have been born through typical birth canal means, right? Child slides out of the birth canal. There's witnesses there. That's literally on camera. And they DNA test the child, and the child does not belong to the mother. And I don't know if people really understand that that's not even a strange anomaly in testing, that if you really want to understand who you truly are, then you really have to understand that you're a chimera. And if you really think that your identity is completely tied to the gender of who you are, then even with that belief, then you would need to relook at genetics and understand that, well, I'm a chimera, which means I could be as much as 4 people, if not more. And that there are people that are born from a womb that have the genetic material of the womb does not match the mother. That the mother's DNA, the mother's genes are not the same. They're different. It's a different person that occupies their womb. And this is the true nature of what consciousness really is. The association, we associate into our identity so much that we end up writing the same signature, and that signature ends up writing itself across multiple platforms, whether it be a skin cell, a liver cell, or a lung cell. And this is probably what transposons have to do with, this idea of these jumping genes, right? Where these genes jump from one chromosome to another, that would be almost like your identity raining down on itself, constantly baptizing itself to remember who you are. It's like this vibration like that, you know? Some good stuff. Lots of beautiful things to consider on this wonderful day. Please get a tail. And when you do that, whatever it is, it's ceremonial. Some of you might want to try maybe some ears, maybe. It doesn't matter. If you can find that happy medium where you feel cool as fuck, but then you're ashamed when other people see you, this is where you want to be. There's the work you want to do. And you're going to find yourself in that moment, and you're going to know who you truly are, because the embarrassment, the shame that you feel is a detector. It's detecting who is not you, because you're ashamed. And you would know that because you'd say, I feel cool as fuck. And now when I open the window, I feel ashamed. And there you found the epidermis of you. Love you guys. Have a beautiful day. We'll have many conversations later, especially if you leave comments. If I get a lot of comments, then the video gets a lot more views. If the video gets a lot more views, then I can come back and do another one later. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just like pushing myself on people that are like, why are you not growing enough facial hair?
While I wait for the sun to shine.
We got a foul in the field. We got a foul on the field. Listen up, guys. I don't make shit up. Your organs, one of the reasons why organ transplant works has to do with genetic rejection. And that there are phantom parts of you that are made up of DNA that does not fucking belong to you. The next time one of you wants to qualify that I'm making shit up, fucking qualify how you know I'm making this up, because I spent years researching this stuff. It blew me away that this was true. I had no idea. I had no idea because I was clinging to the idea that I have to be a person, a complete person, because we come from this world where nothing in nature has a fucking soul except for me. And we tell ourselves this story in this divine, gross, tragic story where basically we're psychopaths and nothing else exists except for us. And as we start to unwind what the DNA is, what the genetic code really is, it's a receipt. It's a receipt for a place that you can sit and grow an antenna. And the show is promising you that no one else will grow an antenna the same shape. Which means that the cellular structure of the DNA itself, the true signature of who you are, the reason why chromosomes have an X is because of the intersection of that place. The chromosomal cross point, the idea that you have about your own signature, is a very special spot. That is a origin point, and it is the only point where all the cells can meet together and share a common API called you. And that common API is not necessary inside of every toenail, inside of every follicle, and inside of every piece of keratin that's been exchanged. The essence of you is expensive to store, and there's certain parts of you that have realized I do not need to know the totality of this, and that those parts end up reproduce. We still don't even know how this works. But yes, look it up. Guys, put more effort. If you're going to listen to me, put more effort in. If you doubt me, you would need to go Google it. Google it. I take this stuff very seriously because I want to know who the fuck we are and why we're here. And I'm not here to waste your time. I ask you to prune my lips because I put so much time fermenting them before I talk. So there's my little, just getting off, but yeah.